Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the inaugural Demonland podcast. Hopefully the first of many. And joining me tonight is Grapeviney. How are you?
I'm very good, Andy. Great to hear a recap of that song, that great song from the 80s, Come On Demons.
Yeah,
and listening to the music, I could just picture the blonded hair of the Phoebes and Todd and Jay Viney,
yeah.
Andy Lovell.
Yeah.
So lots of good memories from the late 80s there.
Do you recall when that was done? That probably was 88 or 89, I think.
Yeah. 89 is the year stuck in my head. Whether that's wrong or not, I'm not too sure. Maybe one of our many listeners out there will have the precise date and can phone it in.
Yeah, so I'll give everyone the phone numbers if you do want to call and contribute to the show, because obviously doing this live, we want to have some audience interaction with us. So if you want to give us a call on the show, two ways you can do it. Get on the landline or your mobile, 03 9016 3666. That's 03 9016 3666. Or you can Skype Demonland 31. So just search for Demonland 31. You should find me. Do a friend request. I don't even think you have to do a friend request. You can just hit the phone button and we'll get you on the air. And I'm just seeing in the chat room someone said they hear us loud and clear, which is good. Thank you, Demon Jack. Bobby Clark says nothing so far. Well, I'll just tell him to hit play on the player on the site. So we were talking.
That would help.
That would help. You got to press play. We're not just going to come on live. So we're talking about the Come On Demons. Do you recall what that was for? Was that some marketing thing? Was it?
Yeah, I don't think it was anything in particular. It was just I think just the club was sort of maybe freshening up its image and doing something which at the time might have been considered cool. I can picture most of the video in my head right now, and it'd be decidedly uncool now. But I don't think it was done for any particular purpose other than just to sort of generate a bit of interest and excitement among the faithful.
Yeah, because now that I think about it from the video footage of it, there's footage from the grand final in '88. So it was just trying to, play off, us being on the rise at the time. So
yes, it'd be interesting to see a current version of a team song done by there's plenty of lads down at the club now, so some of the young boys, and the one that stands out particularly for those of our listeners who are on social media is it's worth following Jaden Hunt on Instagram. It seems like Jaden's just sort of coming out of his shell, and he's started posting some rather strange and interesting and very out there videos. He's got a thing for chocolate milk, and I think the brand he likes is Nippies, and he does all these strange Nippies promotions where he sort of shouts and screams into his video. So
he's
if you are on Instagram, worth following Jaden Hunt for sure.
So he's producing his own content rather than just playing someone else's
Yes,
videos.
he is. And I guess that's in tune with the way social media sort of runs these days, isn't it? But post game on Saturday night, he did a video of him miming to "I Feel Good" and was sort of dancing around in his chair. So he's sort of got a bit of spunk about him, Jaden Hunt, I think.
Well, Jaden Hunt, a plug for Demonland, where we're from. He is one of the players that we sponsor, and I'll have to ask him about these videos the next time we next time we have next time I meet him, got to meet him at the season launch this year, and seems like a guy with a good head on his shoulders. And he was very enthusiastic. He was quite. My nephews came, and he was talking to them, asking them questions. So really good. Kid.
He looks like he's enjoying himself, doesn't he? He looks like he's enjoying his footy and being at the club, and I think that you could say that applies to all the playing group at the moment. They all really seem on the same page.
Yeah, and speaking of that, the game this week. We'll talk about it in depth, but quarter time. What were your feelings at when the bell rang? Were you in doom and gloom times? Were you?
I was trying to stave off the doom and gloom. I thought we were 23 points down, and I thought we'd played pretty poorly up until that point. So I think to only be 4 goals down, gave us sort of some sort of hope that we weren't out of it by any stretch of the imagination. And I thought the first quarter seemed to be an extension of the game, the final pre-season game against the Eagles. We looked very fumbly, missed a lot of targets, and it seemed that sort of continued on into the first quarter against St Kilda. But then, they came out after quarter time, and it was a totally different team, basically.
See, I thought during the first quarter, particularly the first half of the first quarter, I thought we actually played really well. We just couldn't kick goals. We couldn't get the score on the board. So before they kicked their couple of goals, I really thought we should have been up by a lot more than we were. Oh, we were only up for a little bit at one stage, but there were a lot of missed opportunities. And then when they sort of let loose and kicked like sort of 3-4 unanswered goals, my head just dropped, and I was thinking, nothing's changed. We're still the same old Melbourne. That MFC SS really was sinking in to me.
It's hard to avoid that. Even the strongest and most logical minds can't help but slip into that mode, I suppose, especially when you concede a few goals quickly. But we showed last year on a few occasions, and we did it again on the weekend. We don't mind if we're down a bit. We showed last year quite a few times that we can come back. We conceded the first 7 goals to North Melbourne in round 2 last year, and then kicked the next 7 in the second quarter. So I think we need to sort of move on from, the slitting of the wrists that invariably, people feel compelled to do it at quarter time, because you can be a few goals down, and as we saw, especially in the third quarter on the weekend, you can kick 5 goals in 5 minutes, and it's game on again.
Yeah.
So,
well, as a Melbourne supporter who's spent the last 10 years, sort of following the club, it's very hard not to fall into those old habits, and it's going to take a bit of convincing to get a lot of us, off the off the floor and out of that way of thinking, because. Last year, there were quite a few games where games that we lost, but we gave a team a couple of goals head start and then came back, but weren't able to win. And it was always, well, if we only hadn't have given them a head start, we might have won. So hopefully this team, this era, this coach can really drum that out of the players, and let's not give teams head starts, because we did it this week as well.
Yeah, we did. Although you're right what you said before, though. We started okay against St Kilda and did a lot of things right. Probably just the final execution and sometimes the ball handling sort of let us down when we were going forward. So, and that then enabled St Kilda to then kick a few in a row. But going back to what you said about MFC SS, Melbourne Football Club Supporter Syndrome, for those of you out there who aren't familiar with the acronym that's used regularly on Demon Land, do you, Andy, visit the matchday threads during the game? Do you ever read what people are posting on Demon Land while the play is going on, or in breaks between the play?
Well, not while I'm at the game. If I'm at the game, which if the game's in Melbourne, I invariably am. No, I don't. I don't follow it at all until after the game. I sort of read the post-match thread. But if the game is interstate and I'm on my couch, then yeah, I've got my phone in my hand and I'm pretty much following along. I don't always post during the game. I'm usually putting out fires of people who are trolling each other and stuff like that, which you'd be familiar with too. Yeah,
it gets very dramatic in those match day threads, doesn't it? I'm like you. I don't pay any attention to it if I'm at the ground. But if I'm watching on TV, I might not call it up during the game, but at quarter time I'll usually go and have a look and see what's being said. And I tell you what, my blood pressure goes through the roof when we're losing, and that's not because of what's happening. It's on the field. It's what I'm reading in those match day threads.
There's a lot of doom and gloom.
Yeah, people get. It's very melodramatic in there.
Well, it's I would say sometimes it's warranted because of what we've been through, and hopefully with the team being on the rise, if we can maintain the momentum and we can string a couple of wins in a row and sort of be have a much better than 50% strike rate. Maybe there'll be less negativity, but that's going to come with, the boys have to back it up on the field and give us that confidence back.
Yep, that's right.
So the game on what did you, who were your standouts from the game once we gained the ascendancy in the second and third quarter? Where did that come from? There's always an impetus for this type of thing. So
Look, Big Max was one of the key factors. Obviously, I think he really got on top in the ruck, and we then really got first use of the ball, and he just seemed to dominate, particularly in those second and third quarters, and all of the mids benefited from that. Probably Clary the most, and as you would have seen online. And in the match reports following the match, I think everyone has recognised that Clayton Oliver's a really special talent, and he just the numbers on their own are pretty extraordinary. He's racking up the kind of stats that you expect from a 10-year veteran rather than a kid that's played 14 games. I think it was hard not to be completely wowed by his performance on the weekend. 36 disposals, 14 of them contested, 5 marks, 9 clearances, and 7 tackles. That's just such a comprehensive and thorough performance in every way, isn't it?
Yeah, and that comes out to 122 Dream Team points for those fantasy football watchers. And I must say it was very, very impressive. It was a career high for him, I believe, particularly the Dream Team aspect of it. And it was actually the first time in 14 games that he scored 100 points or more. And I'm willing to bet the house that that's going to happen quite a few times this year. And I don't want to get ahead of myself, but if we have a year where we win 16 games, and I'm not saying it's going to be this year, but if we win 16 plus games, he's going to feature quite heavily on that last Monday night of the year.
He's I don't think there's any doubt about that. And we've just already seen in 14 games. Most of his work is really good, but there's been a few sublime moments. There was that gather on the wing against Hawthorn last year, where he then sort of virtually picked the ball up with one hand, spun around and dished off to Stretch. surrounded by three Hawks. And then again, we saw against St Kilda on the weekend the fabulous handball to Jones, who then goaled on his left foot in the third quarter.
That was fantastic. That piece of play. I actually watched on the I follow the AFL on Facebook, and they had a little program that Gary Lyon hosts and that Barrett guy. And they showed some footage of that piece of play, and they were sort of showing how that St Kilda, how bad St Kilda were in that play, because they had 6 or 7 players around the ball to our 3 or 4, so we were quite outmanned. But Maxi got it down to Clary. Clary just knew where his teammate was, and he put it. He didn't even look. It was a look away over the head handball, straight to Jonesy, and it was just a ripper of a goal. And Petrarca did a few of those as well. Those just handballs out of nowhere.
Yeah, and just on Clary, there was also a great pick-up in the second quarter where he sort of gathered it inside the centre square and then set off a chain of handballs, which finished up with Sam Wiedemann running in and kicking a goal on the run, which was also he looks the real deal, doesn't he, when he's around the footy and when he gathers it and gets it out.
Yeah. Oh, well, I should turn off my notifications, otherwise I'm going to get those beeps. But how old is he? He's not even 20 years old yet. He's played, just over half a dozen games. I can only think he's going to get better and better. And
is he the best young talent at the club?
I think almost he is. Well, look, you got him, and then you got a guy like Petrarca, and they're two completely different types of player, you'd have to say. But
who's in the conversation? Oliver's in the conversation. Yeah. Petrarca's in the conversation. Mm-hmm. You'd have to say Jesse is in that conversation.
Yeah, and we'll just sidetrack to Jesse at the moment. I'm loving the fact that they're throwing him into the centre every now and again. And I know they sometimes do it at the beginning of the match to stuff up the matchups of the other team, particularly the defensive matchups. But I've been loving him. They put him into the middle a few times. And there was one time, I think it was in the last quarter, which way... Oh, yeah, well, it was either the third or the last quarter, and he went into the middle, he went up to Maxi, and he whispered something to Maxi, and sure enough, ball goes up, Max to Jesse, and that was just beautiful. And so I'm loving Jesse getting involved in the middle of the ground every now and again. I think it's a good move by the coach. And going back to...
It is. The fact that we've got Wiedemann and Watts up forward probably gives Goodwin, the flexibility to do that, and that there's still targets to kick to when Jesse goes into the middle. But his agility and his mobility is really, really good, and he gets the footy.
Yeah.
He had 3 clearances, laid 4 tackles on the weekend, and got quite a few touches when he was in there. So, he's a good user of the ball as well. So. He's great below his knees, and he's well suited to that kind of role, and it just mixes things up a bit every now and then, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think on that point on Wiedemann being there, I think they've just got to keep playing him, and he'll find his role in the team, particularly as Jesse goes into the middle every now and again.
Yeah, I must admit, after watching the replay, I thought Wiedemann did okay on the day. But I noticed quite a few things on the replay that I hadn't seen live, being stuck up in the heavens at Etihad Stadium there. And he's also a good user of the ball. He's quick with his hands, and he does clever things. And I think I don't think there's any. Well, I was pretty confident coming into the season that he'd play most, if not all, of the year, and I think that what we've seen from the pre-season, playing all 3 games there and then being selected in round 1, he'll continue to play. I don't see any reason why he'll go back to go back to the twos now.
Yeah, and I said it to a mate on the day. There was a few times he went up for marking contests. There weren't easy marks, and he didn't take them. But I said to my mate, once he starts holding those marks, and he will, as he gets a bit bigger and stronger.
He got close a few times.
Yeah, a few times. He really did, and I was just said to my...
He was in the perfect position, and it almost just,
When he starts holding those marks, look out. So I've got an extra weapon in that forward line, and it's going to make us harder to beat, I think. So going back to, you said those guys, who's in the conversation for those, best players? Someone in the chat room, Danelska, mentioned that Brayshaw's got to be in that conversation, and yeah, I've got to agree.
Look, Brayshaw, and it just goes to the depth of the talent that we've got now. Brayshaw's an excellent footballer and is going to be a good footballer, if not a great footballer in the future. Is he as good as the other guys that we've mentioned, Oliver, Petraka, and Jesse? Maybe. I'm a really big fan of him. There are some that have criticised him, I've noticed, on Demonland, particularly sort of going into the year. People said that he doesn't have great awareness. Some think that he's not a great user of the ball, but I reckon he's going to be an A-grade midfielder. I think he's got it all.
He'll get there.
He runs hard.
He finds the goals as well. Not in particularly this game, but last year I noticed a few times as well. So, yeah, someone, the chief in the chat room said he thinks that Brayshaw's a rung below Oliver, Track and Hogan, and maybe he is at the moment, but it's not such a far step.
It's not.
Below,
it's not such a big step, and the rung that he's on or that he'll get to is going to be of a very high level. It's just, when you sort of compare him up against those other names, maybe he's half a step back, as we say. But he's mighty talented, and I think he's a great user of the ball, and I think he'll get more of it as we go along.
And Bobby Clark in the chat room said that Gus will fly under the radar, and it's not a bad player to have fly under the radar, because if they're going to start tagging, one or two of our players, it means that they're not, if opposition teams, it means they're not putting on, the forward pressure. They're not. They're trying to be defensive rather than going
defensive minded. Yeah.
And then you have a guy like Brayshaw who will step in because he's not being tagged, and he'll tear them apart.
Jack Viney was reasonably quiet on the weekend.
Yeah, forgot about him.
And the midfield has such depth now that. Even if one or two of them do have a quiet game, there's enough of the others that will step up. So, Clayton might not be dominant every week, but in the weeks that he's quiet, Jack Viney might push ahead.
Yeah.
So there's more than enough depth now that, if a player or two has a down day, it still shouldn't impact the overall, the overall effect.
Now, talking about depth, where do you fit Dom Tyson in the mix?
Well, he'll come back this week. By all accounts, I haven't read Justin Platt's report yet. I think it came out today. But I think I read somewhere that he had 16 inside 50s and had a pretty good game on the weekend. So
he kicked 2 goals
arguably he would have come back in anyway.
Yeah.
But he'll certainly come in with Bernie being suspended this week. Look, Dom Tyson is best 22. Yes, he's had a late start to the year, and he wasn't great in the West Coast game, but many others weren't either, and it was his first game back, so you expect him to be a bit rusty, but he'll come back in and he'll stay back in, I would have thought. And look, someone somewhere is going to get squeezed. Bernie is best 22, and then the conversation turns to someone like Alex Neil-Bullen.
Yeah, I was going to start bringing up the forward brigade, because we've got quite a few forwards that we can't fit them all in, obviously. So count them on.
Well, Dean Kent is arguably back in contention this week, and I'm a big Kent fan, and
so am I.
Would have certainly in my pre-season team would have had him best 22, but and maybe you still do. But Mitch Hannon had a really good game on the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, did you see? Obviously you did. You were at the game. Those goals, but did you see them in the replay? I mean, he had seconds from the time the ball got into his hands till it got to his foot, and he just knew where the goals were. They weren't
it hardly got into his hands.
That's right.
It almost spun on his fingers for half a second.
Yeah. And they weren't flukes, those goals. He knew where the goals were, and that's a good sign from a kid playing. Well, he's not a kid because he's a little bit older than, I think he's 19. Is he?
Yeah.
No, he's 20, sorry. He's
22, I think.
22, yeah. So, he's not a kid, but, it's his first game of footy in the big league. So I was very impressed with him. So you got him, you got Neil Bullen, Garlett's obviously in the team. I don't think he's in there regardless.
I'm a Jeffy fan.
Yeah, so what do you do there? Like, I think it's a good problem to have. This is first world football problems.
Yeah, it is. They're the problems that you want in footy. Look, Neil Bullen's the interesting one because, I'm probably not his biggest fan, or haven't been his biggest fan. I thought, he's probably on the cusp or outside of the starting 22. But he played, he certainly played his best game for the seniors on the weekend, and that's what you want, isn't it? You want to make it hard for, the players who are coming back from injury, or in Bernie's case, suspension. You want selection headaches every week, and if guys like Neil Bullen, James Hahn, James Harms and Tommy Bugg,
and Tommy Bugg,
are all playing great footy, then we've got selection issues, and then you start to have real depth, don't you? That if someone is injured or suspended, then you've got someone who can come in, and you've got complete confidence that they're going to do the job that's required.
And not just that, it makes the players that are in the team, it makes them really want to keep their spot, because if they know that there's 2 or 3 guys lining up ready to take their spot, they should be giving their all anyway, but it's really going to give, you're really going to give it your all, particularly when we're sort of, if we start winning, we're going to be pushing for finals, and you want to be playing in September. You don't want to be playing down at Casey.
Yeah, well, you end up sort of worrying about your spot, isn't it? Don't you? Because, you feel that if you do lose it, then it's going to be hard to get back in. And sort of, I think going into the, if you looked at the Demonland thread on everyone's best 22 for round one, there were a lot of question marks. I can't recall the last time we had such an unsettled team, and I mean unsettled in a good way. Was Spencer going to play? Was Peterson going to play? Nev Jetta and Joel Smith. So there were a lot of those sorts of questions, and it'll be answered in the coming weeks. They're going to need to find a replacement for Joel Smith this week.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. No, we can talk about that. Well, before we talk about our backline and potential issues with injuries and stuff, what did you think, going back to the Spencer Gawn, whether they both play them, what did you think when Maxi initially went off? I saw him actually run off. I saw him sort of clutching his back a bit, and he ran straight to the rooms. My heart, was in my throat at that stage, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, what's if he goes down?
Yeah.
What's going to happen to us?
Well, look, Spencer's a really good backup. He's no Max Gawn, but no. He's pretty solid. So you'd like to think that, God forbid if something did happen to Max, then Spencer can come in and contribute, and hopefully keep things going. But I thought Jack Watts actually did pretty well in the ruck. You know, he wouldn't have won a lot of tap outs. I'm just seeing whether we've got the stats here.
Yeah, I've got Watts had 5 hit-outs.
5 hit-outs, so, you know, not huge numbers, but I thought he competed. Look, he competed well last year in the ruck. Peterson's also does a serviceable job, giving Max a chop-out, so, you know, I can't see Spencer getting a run at the moment. Yeah. I would have thought it worked pretty well on the weekend with Jack, and would do the same if Peterson was sort of in the same boat, really.
So I think he has to. What Jack has to do is provide a contest in the ruck, you know, and I think our on-ballers have to learn to start sharking it off opposition ruckmen, and maybe just in those times when Watsie's in the ruck that they're paying a bit more attention to their man and you know, trying to get the ball another way. Like sometimes opposition players take the ball, you know, sort of look to where Max is tapping the ball, because that happens every now and again. Yep.
Although they still weren't able to stop us on the weekend, were they?
No,
we won clearance after clearance in that second and third quarter especially.
Yeah, it was like they really are getting to know each other, Max and our on-ball division. It's really a nice sight to behold. Backline, you know, we lost Garland in the pre-season, and now we've lost Smith. Is it panic stations down back yet?
Well, if you read some people on Demonland, it's always been panic stations down back, because a lot of people don't have any faith whatsoever in the McDonald brothers. Tom, of course, has copped a lot of stick over the years for his disposal, and now Oscar's copping it for much the same reason. And you know, I think I don't sort of subscribe to that. I reckon both are very good players. Oscar's obviously still learning and will get better as he gets bigger and stronger, but he's already doing a pretty good job. The question is who comes in to replace Smith. Frost apparently was listed as available on the latest injury update, but I would have thought he'll need to play Casey first. I can't see him coming straight back in. I can't see Goodwin playing someone, you know, who's underdone. Could be wrong there. So then who comes in? You know, is it James Harms?
Well, I guess it depends on what the coaching staff see as being the key matchups for Carlton's forwards this week.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think Wagner is also listed as available, but I think also he'd need to come back probably through Casey, wouldn't he?
Yeah. And then
I think there might be different reports about whether he's available or not. I thought he still had a week or two to go.
And that's another point we could talk about, and I'm sure we'll talk about it throughout the year, is the injury list. How reliable are these injury lists that are put out by the club? But, you know, you sort of have to weigh up, and from the club perspective, they've got to weigh up of being how truthful they are to the fans, to how much information they want to give to opposition clubs. So you can't always read everything into what the injury list says.
No, I don't pay much attention to it, and I don't even really I don't watch Misso's injury reports either, or injury updates that he gives on the club. I decipher what I need from what people report on Demonland. I don't think you can really have any faith in that, but you know, that's the way it needs to be. The club needs to you know, it needs to keep quiet about some things, and you're never going to get, you know, you're never going to get the full story. And I don't know why people expect that they would.
Yeah. Bitter but Optimistic in the chat room has asked, hey guys, are you going to answer questions and comments from the chat, or is this separate to your podcast? I'm a Luddite who doesn't understand this stuff. And yes, if you've got questions, ask away. I'm sort of keeping an eye on the chat just to see what you guys are saying.
So BBO is a Luddite.
He's a Luddite.
I thought he'd be a technical whiz with these things. Surrounded by devices of all the latest variety.
Well, guys, if you've got a question, go for it. Ask in the chat room, or better yet, guys, don't be shy. Call the show 03 9016 3666. That's 03 9016 3666. I love that.
I noticed there that Bin Man says, I wouldn't believe anything that Chuckle Misso says. So Bin Man's not falling for it.
No. You guys can Skype.
And Palace D's also says, injury list not true. What about Santa Claus? So I think there's a fair bit of scepticism out there in Demon Land.
Oh, definitely. You can also catch us, get us on if you Skype Demonland 31. So give us a call. Let us know.
It'd be great to hear from some of our regulars on the board.
Yes, most definitely. That's why we've put this together. We just want to meet fellow Demon fans.
Tell us whether you went to the game on the weekend.
Yeah,
I had a bad experience on the weekend. I got there about an hour early.
Yep.
I went up to level 3.
Yep.
On the city side, and as is always the case with St Kilda home games there, they've even got the first 10 rows of level 3 reserved for their members. So no matter how early you get there on a general admission ticket, you're always at least halfway back, which makes it very difficult to see. And then to add insult to injury, I was seated next to a moronic St Kilda supporter who insisted on calling their players darling throughout the entire game. So it was, kick it long, darling, kick it long. Go in, darlings, go in.
I take it was a female you were sitting next to.
It was a female.
Okay.
And the other thing that she did that was infuriating was, when St Kilda kicked a goal, it came up and said on the scoreboard, great goal.
Yes.
Come on, Saints.
Yeah.
So she read that out after every St Kilda goal. And she wouldn't say those words until they appeared up on the scoreboard.
So
and
she was waiting.
It was, she was idiotic in the extreme. And as I say, infuriating, but I must have been infuriating myself because at 3/4 time she got up and moved seats to get away from me. So I'm wearing that as a bit of a badge of honour, I suppose.
Yeah, that's my goal every week when I go to the footy, is to have the person sitting next to me leave. Even if they're related to me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
mind you couldn't do that at Windy Hill and Victoria Park. You had to keep quiet at grounds like that.
Yeah, it's a shame that going to the footy is not a life-threatening experience anymore.
That's right.
That's
right. We had plenty of nervous journeys to those grounds in days gone by.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I absolutely hate that ground. I'm glad our hoodoo of that ground has been broken, and no, I don't count the game against GWS late in the season a couple of years ago. This was actually a breaking of the hoodoo, I think.
Yep, Old Man Rivers agrees. He says Etihad should be bulldozed.
Yeah, I have to agree, Old Man Rivers. It should be. And everyone who went there would have lost about 10 kilos in that hot box.
It was sweaty in there, wasn't it?
I was sweating the whole game, and it wasn't just because I was nervous that we were going to blow our 6-goal lead at any stage. It was genuine sweat from the humidity in there.
Yep, absolutely. And look, there was this issue, I think, because the following day they had the roof open. So I thought they'd settled on a policy of always having the roof closed there, but maybe they've revisited that.
Well, they might have.
Isn't it incredible that, the two main grounds in Melbourne, Etihad is, 20 years old, I think.
Yep.
It opened in maybe 98 or 99.
Yeah.
It's 20 years old and it's already, outdated and useless and soulless. The positioning of it is bad in terms of the light and the shade.
Yeah.
And yet the MCG, where we've been playing football for 5,000 years, and yes, it's had facelifts in the stand, but she's still in good working order, isn't she?
Oh yeah, definitely. Particularly, I mean, where we sit, you know, in the northern stand or the old Olympic stand or whatever. You know, it's pretty nice there.
Level
a lot more room
in that northern stand is pretty much the best place to watch footy, isn't it? It's just at that perfect height where you can, you can really get an appreciation of the full ground, but you're still very close to the action and at a good level.
See, I bought some tickets before the game because I was going with my 8-year-old daughter, so I didn't want to have to sort of on the day try and find seats, and I probably paid through the nose for them. But I had the choice of sitting either on the wing, on the ground level, or sort of in the forward pocket, one level up. And that's where I chose to sit, because I don't know if you've ever sat on the bottom level of Etihad, but it's possibly the worst vantage point of view a game.
Yeah, I don't like it down there. That's why I got to level 3.
There's a bit of a hump in the middle of the ground, and you can't see the feet of the players on the other side of the ground. So yeah, I sort of stay away from sitting on the bottom level at Etihad.
Yeah, well, Bin Man, I noticed here got reserved tickets for $20, and he says he was stuck under concrete and boiling. So it looks like we don't have too many happy campers out there.
No,
and look, I agree with Old Man Rivers, who's just commented that the G is the best stadium on the planet. I watch a lot of sport, overseas sport, as other Demonlanders would, whether it be the NFL or European soccer. And there are some good stadiums out there, but there are very few stadiums in the world that have the same capacity as the G, up at 100,000. I think the Nou Camp does in Barcelona, where Barcelona play. But most of the European soccer stadiums, the big ones, are about 80,000 or 60,000, and you know, a lot of them have sort of running tracks around them, so there's quite a distance between the fans and the playing field. And you know, when you consider the facilities at the G and the view that you get from most seats, it really is, and I try to take off the rose-coloured glasses here, it really is one of the best stadiums on the planet. Couldn't agree with that more.
Yeah, it certainly is a fantastic place to view the footy, and we are back there next week. And I can't wait to be back in our area, back sitting in, you know, my own seat. I don't like to think that the seat I sit in the next day is being, you know, sat in by some Collingwood mongrel. But
well, it happens occasionally, doesn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, it'll be great to get back to the G. But speaking of going just quickly back to Etihad, we actually are there quite a few times this year. We're going to be back there in a couple of weeks. Well, not this week, the next week. We're playing Geelong, and then I think we play the Bulldogs there again later in the year.
Well, we are unbeatable at Etihad at the moment.
Yes, you mentioned
Goodwin's got a 100% coaching record at that ground, so it's going to take a mighty effort to knock us off at a stadium which we play so well at.
Yes.
Who would have thought we'd ever be saying that?
Most definitely. So, guys, if you want to call the show, we're going to start talking about soon. We're going to go into next week's game. If you want to give your thoughts, 03 9016 3666. It's not a free call, but it's close to it. Or you can Skype Demonland31, and that most definitely is free. You can download the Skype app to your phone, or get on your computer and download Skype, and you can be calling us and talking to us right now. So, back to next week's game. well, before we actually talk about next week's game, Whispering Jack wrote an article this week, and he probably laid out the best, the best reason why we have MFC supporter syndrome, the MFCSS, because we have I'm not sure if you're aware, but we have a really abysmal record in round two, particularly the last 12 round twos. We have not won once in round two since...
What, since 2005?
Since 2000 and... Oh, where do you have it? 2000, let me go back. Yeah, 2005. April 2nd, 2005, before a meagre crowd of 13,000 at Telstra Dome, which is our favourite ground.
Which is Colonial Stadium.
Yes, that was the last time we won. So 2005 was the last time we won in a round two, and we beat the Bulldogs by 20 points. We then fast forward to April 8th, 2006, and we lost to the Bulldogs by 47 points. But in round one, we had lost to Carlton just the week before, but then made up for it and won quite a few on the trot and made the finals for the last time.
Well, the round two loss that everyone will be talking about was obviously last year's loss when we
get there.
When we took on the Bombers and got rolled. That game sticks in a lot of people's craw still, 12 months on.
Well, I think it sort of almost mirrors the situation, I mean, particularly prior to the game, which we're in now. I mean, you would have thought going into that game last year that we were going to just roll them. They were undermanned because of the, drug scandal. We should have, by all intents and purposes, have rolled them. And what happened? We didn't. Is the same going to happen? Is history going to repeat itself?
No, not for mine. I think we're actually going to thrash Carlton and thrash them comprehensively. And look, I'll just to butt in, we've got some breaking news which has been passed on by Bin Man, who says that there's an article up on the Herald Sun website which says Max Gawn is happy to consider a contract extension at the end of the year and is wedded to the idea of playing out his career at the Demons.
Yeah, I can't see him leaving. I won't say I know Max personally because my family sponsors him and have since he came to the club. But he just, I know him as well as just having a chat with him every time we have one of those functions. So it's not like we're BFFs. But he seems like the type of guy that's extremely loyal and will play for this club forever.
Yeah, I think he mentioned last year that he really grew to love the club while he was injured, basically. And when he was doing his, Gone in 60 Seconds or whatever that segment was called, I think he sort of said that was the time where he really became a D's person, if you like. And as you say, it's hard to see him going anywhere else, really. And look, the administration have done a really good job of recontracting all the young players. They got Jesse Hogan's signature at the end of last year, which was sort of the final one we were waiting on. And I think, almost everyone bar Billy Stretch, perhaps, is sort of locked up for the next few years and can't see Billy Stretch going anywhere else either. So, I think it's not just the fact that the boys sort of have bonded well together. They seem like a really tight-knit group. Success or the self-belief that the players have got now, I think that they actually do believe that good times are around the corner, and that's obviously also a huge incentive to stay, isn't it, for anyone?
Oh, Of course, I think the players can see that the tide is turning, and I think they all want to be on board the train because good times are ahead. So, looking forward to this week. What gives you the confidence that we're not going to do another Essendon or even another round 22? When we had everything to play for in round 22, we were playing for a spot in the finals, or the prospect of playing in the finals, and we blew it.
Hopefully, they are a little bit older than they were then, a little bit more mature, and I think, hopefully they would have learnt from that. If the coach thought that maybe they hadn't, then I'm sure it's been impressed upon them during the week, and I would have thought someone like Jordan Lewis would just be, he said it post-game, and I think he'd be saying it behind closed doors. Yes, we've won one game, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. We need to back up and do it again the week after. So hopefully that combination of a little bit more experience, they'll come with the right mindset. If they come with the right mindset, then they're going to win. And even, there were times in last year's game against Carlton and Essendon, in both of those losses, really we lost by, I think 3 or 4 goals on each occasion. Mm. And even late in those games, had we just been able to kick 2 in a row, we could easily have won those while still playing a pretty ordinary brand of football. So, even if we do come out, we're not switched on for the first 20 minutes, I've got faith that they can turn it on now, and we'll avoid those pitfalls that we had. I think, I just think there's a bit of a different mindset to it all now.
Yeah.
I hope that there is. Having said that, we've still got a lot of young players and a lot of inexperienced players, and there are going to be hiccups. It might not be this week, but, they're guaranteed they're going to turn in some crappy performances. But you've got to expect that from a young and inexperienced list, which is what we've got at the moment.
Yeah. I would love to know what... I would have loved to have been in the huddle at quarter time to hear exactly what Goody said at quarter time, because, the team just, in the past, and I'm not talking last year, I'm talking about in the last 10 years, that we would have lost that game by a lot, and we would never be able to recover from being down like that. And whatever he said got them, back on track and got them doing exactly what they've been, talking about all year, in the pre-season. And hats off to Goody for being able to get them back. And I think it's, you mentioned Jordan Lewis before, and I think the fact that we've got him, he's definitely like having a coach on the field, a coach playing for us. And I guarantee you, the reason Hawthorn lost on the weekend had definitely to do with him not being in the team, Mitchell not being in the team, and Hodge not being in the team, because that's 3 on-field coaches that they didn't have, and you can't buy that type of experience on the field.
Yeah, look, bitter but optimistic has just responded to my comments by saying we've been young and inexperienced for years. Let's get over that one. And I get annoyed when I see that, because people can only appreciate the view of a supporter. And yes, from a supporter's perspective, we've been stuck in the same bloody spot for 10 years, and we've had, thousands of kids go through the club, and they've all been so hopeless they've never got beyond 20 games. But you can't blame a Christian Petrarca for that, or an Angus Brayshaw for that. They've only been at the club for 2 or 3 years, and they're not responsible for what happened in 2010 or 2008. The sins of the past shouldn't be foisted upon them, and they're going to take their time to grow and mature and become, properly consistent footballers. And I think people sometimes, they only see it from that. It's only supporters which have that perspective. No one else views it that way. So, you could go up to Christian Petracca and say, we've lost to Carlton 11 of the last 12 times. When are you blokes going to win one? And he's going to say, well, I've only played against them twice. What do you want from me?
Yeah.
I'm not responsible for what happened in 2008 when Cale Morton was playing.
I love that Cale Morton video. Have you ever seen that video of him running away from one of the...
Yes, we've all seen that plenty of times. But poor Cale. Cale's the one that cops it the most.
He does.
Isn't he? He became the poster boy for that lost generation.
Well, it seems every year...
Maybe something that he shared with Jimmy Toumpas a little bit too.
Yeah, well, it seems every year we have sort of a poster boy, a whipping boy, if you will, on Demonland, and sometimes it's fair, sometimes it's not. Well, more often it's probably not, and sometimes you've got to give guys a bit of a chance to sort of blossom, and I think... poor Oscar at the moment's copping it a lot, and hopefully with more games under his belt, because get used to it, guys. They're going to play him week in, week out. Hopefully he'll hit his strides and get there. So
I'm conscious that it's 9:30 and we're getting on in the night. And there's quite a few people in the chat room, which is good to see, and lots of conversation happening, and most of it's above board. And not designed to beat the senses, but I'm wondering, some of our listeners might want to call in, and perhaps they could ring in on one of two discussion points that interest me. One of which we talked about before, and that's who is the best young talent at the club? Is it Petracca? Is it Oliver? Is it Jesse, or is it indeed Angus Brayshaw, as someone suggested? And I think the other topic that's worthy of discussion is who's going to come in this week? Will James Harms, who's spent a bit of time in the back line, will he get a Guernsey? Or will it be someone like Tommy Bugg, who's probably been, or certainly was under Ruse, probably seemed to be ahead of Harms in the pecking order, I would have thought.
Yeah, that's interesting, guys. If you want to give a call, 03 9016 3666. That's 03 9016 3666. That number's at the top of the page there, that top of the chat. Or you can Skype us at Demonland31. Give us a call. These type of shows are really great when you can have a few different voices, have it like a conversation. The chat room's great because we've been able to interact with you there. But, give us a call.
It's a chance to speak to your fellow Demonlanders too, and perhaps perhaps in the future we can profile some of the more colourful characters. Yeah,
and it'll also be interesting to hear how they found Demonland, maybe the story behind their username. Always interested in hearing. I'd love to hear how Bitter But Optimistic got his avatar. That's, is that a picture of himself, or did he find that on the internet?
Well, BBO posted before that he's not going to call in because people laugh at his high-pitched voice. And sometimes it's difficult to tell with BBO just when he's being serious and when he might be taking the urine. But he's just commented that at this stage Clary's the best young prospect for sure. Old Man Rivers is in agreement that it's Oliver, and that Oliver, he's likening him, as others have, to Diesel Williams, which I think is a bit early, but look, the sky's the limit with Clayton, isn't it?
It's going to be interesting, and we probably won't remember this at the end of the year come Brownlow time, but it'll be interesting to see who got the 3 votes this week from the umpire, because I have a feeling that, I don't think someone like Maxi probably won't win a Brownlow medal, but I would say he'll probably steal votes off some of our midfield. just because he's a
if I was
colourful
giving out
character.
votes on the weekend, I didn't put them up on Demonland this week, but I found it difficult to split that top vote between Max and Clary. I think they both had, almost equal impact in terms of sort of getting us back on track. So I would have thought it'll be 3 and 2 to Max and Clary in one order or another from the umpires. But as you say, we'll have to wait until Brownlow night to see.
Oh, and we've got a call at the moment, so I'm going to go ahead and take that one. Hello, you are on the air. Who am I talking to? Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
It's good. It's Bobby here from Rockhampton, all the way from Queensland.
Oh, wow. How are you tonight?
Yeah, not too bad.
Are you battening down the hatches?
How far is the cyclone away from Rockhampton, Bobby?
Well, it was a 3-hour drive from here, so it was pretty close. Now we're just getting a lot of heavy rain and a few floods around.
So you cooped up at home. Have you been? Did you get to watch the match on the weekend, or have you seen a replay since?
Yeah, I got Fox Footy here up here because there's no bloody AFL coverage up here. It's all rugby league.
Yep.
So, who is who do you think is our best talent, best young talent at the club?
It's definitely Hogan for sure.
He's pretty special.
A vote for Jesse.
Yeah.
A vote for Jesse.
Yeah, because
look, all the
no
online
one
discussion
has
seems
picked
to be
40
going
goals in the
towards.
first season since Chris Grant, I'm pretty sure, from the Bulldogs.
So,
Sorry, just say that again, Bobby.
Hello?
Oh, sorry, Bobby. Can you just repeat that? We just missed what you said.
It has to be Jesse Hogan for sure because no one's picked 40 goals in their first season since Chris Grant, so he's got to be the best talent easily.
So is that stat the AFL wide that no one in their first season since Chris Grant
kicked 40 plus since Chris Grant, so yeah. Easily Hogan, then followed by Clary, and then I'd go with Petrarca.
So Clary
So
and then
Hogan,
Petrarca.
Clary, and then Petrarca.
Yeah.
Yep, in that order.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's hard to split between those three. I think it can go. You can have three different people and three different
opinions.
opinions.
Worthy mention's got to be Jaden Hunt for sure. He's a beauty.
Oh yeah, I love Jaden Hunt. You won't get any argument out of me. When I found out he was available to be for Demonland to grab as a player sponsor, I took him quickly because I recognised him as being someone pretty special, and he'll only get better.
Yeah, player sponsor. You should get him on the show next week or sometime.
Well,
the season.
Look, if I can do that, I'm going to try. I want to see if this show becomes a regular thing, which I think it will. We've had fun tonight. I hope. I hope Grapeviney's had fun too, and I'm happy to do this type of format where we, discuss the last match, discuss the next match, look at the injuries, look at who's playing well, and any other issues and topics that arise during the week. So we'll probably do this on a weekly basis, and going forward, if we can somehow snag some interviews with some people, I might try and call in a few favours to do that, and he'd be a great person to have a chat with. So yeah, good idea.
Yeah. And on the selection, I'd have to say Tommy Buggan for Joe Smith next in line.
Tommy
Bug. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I'm with you, Bobby. I'm a bit of a Tommy Bug fan. I think he works hard.
He has a bit of
mongrel.
mongrel.
Not great.
He has a bit of mongrel though.
Pretty good. He's got a bit of mongrel, and he can kick a goal too when he goes forward. So I'd like to see Bug come in, and I've got a feeling he will.
Yeah, and I'd be spewing if Neil Bullen got dropped on McCannon. They deserve another crack for sure.
Yeah, it's an interesting dilemma to have because it's going to be a case of, players are going to come back from injury, do they have to earn their spot back into the team, or do we have to do the unfortunate thing and axe someone who perhaps doesn't deserve to be axed?
Is he, Bobby? Is he a better bet than a fit and firing Kent, Neil Bullen? If you had to choose between one of them,
no, you got to have Kent in there. You got pace. We need like pace.
Yep. So Neil Bullen might be, maybe not this week, but he might
maybe
find it difficult.
Maybe the following week after,
spot.
if Kenty's ready to go, I'd say he'd come in for Kent. Come in for Bullen. I mean.
Yeah. And look, as we said, this is a good dilemma to have. It's better than having players play in the team who didn't deserve to get in there. Which after the last 10 years we've experienced that for sure.
Yeah. Well, anyways, guys, I gotta go here.
Not a problem. Thank you for calling in. You're our first caller to the show. So
there's a prize. There's a prize in the mail for you, Bobby.
Yeah, well, you will be a trivia question when Grapeviney and I become national successors and hit the big time. So thank you very much for calling in.
Cheers, boys. Good luck with the show.
Go Days.
Loving it at the moment.
Thanks, mate. Come back next week.
Good on you, Bobby.
Cheers. All right, isn't that great to hear from fellow Demon Landers, not just fellow Demon fans, but fellow Demon Landers. So thank you, Bobby.
Yep. And calling in all the way from Rockhampton, so it's good to know that we're Australia-wide.
Yes.
Not just broadcasting here in Melbourne, the home of football, but being picked up all around the country too.
Well, I was just looking at our stats, our listener stats, and we peaked at having 33 listeners. Which is great, for our first show that only had only put it up sort of in the afternoon that we were going to do a live show, and we'll put this.
But those 33 listeners, they've got their they've got the audio out loud in their houses and apartments, and all their families are listening in too. So it's actually 33 times 4 or 5. So the audience is exponentially greater than that.
Well, it's pretty good actually for our first live show. So what we'll do is when we once we've finished this off, I'll save the file. I'll put it on the website for other people to listen to, and as we go along, the audience should grow as long as we've got good things to talk about. I'm sort of running Demonland and running the website. I haven't had a lot of experience in us being successful. Demonland started in 2000, and admittedly we had a great year in 2000, but because the site was fairly young and growing, in the first 5 years we were just finding our feet. So we didn't, it was hard to gauge whether success brought people to the site. But I've always thought that, when we've been crap, like we've been since 2007 pretty much, I always thought we get a lot of people coming onto the site because they want to vent. The people are angry, they just want to vent. And we've got another call in again, so I'll go and take this call and then finish my thought later. Hello, caller. Caller, you're on the... You might want to turn down your radio.
A lot of people coming onto the site because they want to vent. The people are angry, they just want to vent.
Yeah, is this the vlog site?
Yes, it is. Do you want to just turn off your listening device because we can hear it in the background?
I'll try to.
Thanks, mate. You can put the volume down.
Coming onto the site because they want to vent.
Hang on, you're asking me to do something technical here.
Yeah, and that's the website. Yes, it is. Do you want to just turn off your listening device?
Guys, when you call in, if you can just turn off or turn down the sound, it's going to confuse you and us. And I think a caller's been able to do that. Hi, you're on the air. Who are we talking to? Hello?
No, looks like we've lost our caller.
I think he turned down the volume on the microphone. He's still on the line there. Can you hear us? Hello? Okay. Well, I'll hang up, but give us a call back. If you can. Give us a call back in a few minutes when you get that working.
We should just take a moment out to send a congratulations to Karen Paxman of the Melbourne Demons women's team, who tied for second place in the best and fairest at the AFLW Awards today.
Yes.
Which is a huge effort. She had a great season, and that's a really good result for her. Runner-up in the inaugural best and fairest. So good job, Patsy.
Yeah, well done. And our caller is back on the line. Hello, can you hear us?
I certainly can. Can you hear me, more importantly?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. You sound good and not as confusing as when you had the show running in the background at a slight delay.
Well, I told you earlier I was a Luddite.
Are we talking to BBO?
You're talking to Uncle Bitter.
Hi, how are you?
This is a great honour, Uncle Bitter. I thought you were
putting on my
nervous
deep
because,
voice.
as you said, you'd been banned by both of us from Demonland on previous occasions, so you were a bit. Thought you might be a bit gun shy.
Oh, no. I just didn't want to give away. My voice is so well known that I have to protect my identity.
And I must say,
did you come down from Romsey on the weekend to watch the game, or you saw it on the telly?
No, I did, and I sat with the St Kilda members in the Accolade room.
Where's the Accolade room?
Now, the Accolade room's very nice, actually.
Is that isn't the room by any chance that overlooks that that little bar area that they've got on the second level?
Well, the whole area's got plenty of bars in it, which I made good use of.
No, but there's one section sort of in the forward flank that's like a little...
No, this is around on the wing.
Oh, on the wing, okay, so it's not the room I'm thinking of.
It was the room where when Rewalt went down, I started chanting, Rui's done an AC, Rui's done an AC, and jigging around, and the St Kilda supporters got quite upset.
I can't imagine why.
Sensitive lot.
I mean,
and you didn't get thrown out, or you didn't get beer thrown on you, or...
Well, it was the end of the day, but at that stage of the day, my caftan was soaked with alcohol and beer. I probably looked a bit ugly, so they kept away from me.
Very good. Have you got confidence we'll get up this week, Uncle Bitters?
Well, I'll tell you what. If we don't beat Carlton this week, after that abysmal showing last year, towards the end of last year, then we might as well tear up our bloody tickets and go away. Let's be honest about this. I'll be interested. I don't think we'll make too many changes. We've got 2 compulsory. I'm not quite sure who's fit enough to come in. I'd like to see Wagner get a go, but I'm not sure if he's fit. Then again, if Carlton could bring in a bit of, could have a tall side. But look, if we can't beat them, no matter who they put on the paddock, then we're kidding ourselves.
Yeah, I agree.
If we're on the improve, and a lot of us have listened to and followed Melbourne for X number of years. This is finally it, and I'll give myself a damn good flogging if they don't.
Well, as long
surprise.
As long as you film it for the website and we get an exclusive, by all means.
You wouldn't. You fellows wouldn't appreciate it. You're bloody lawyers or something,
No, look, you got to understand.
You'd probably sue me or something.
No, not at all. You got to understand, though. We sometimes have to put our foot down as moderators. It's an ugly job.
It's a family-friendly site, Uncle Bitters. You should know that. You're an uncle. There are little nieces and nephews running around.
My niece, you wouldn't want to know my nieces and nephews.
Why?
Well, I won't go any further on that. But I'm very appreciative of. I actually can't believe that I'm able to communicate with you fellows. I can't. This is my most complex foray into the world of modern technology. I hope you understand that.
Well,
first adventure in the 21st century.
Well, not my first adventure, but my first adventure with technology. But thanks, guys. It's been really interesting. I'll tell you. You want some criticism?
Yeah, go for it. As long as it's constructive.
Well, I'd like to see more direct answering of the chat. There was a lot of interesting comments coming up on the chat.
Oh, I thought we did an okay job of keeping.
As you went on, I thought you improved. But I reckon it should be more interactive.
Yeah, look, that's what we've tried to do. That's why I've had the chat room on there rather than having using the forum and having to refresh the screen. And we will, as we go along, sort of interact with the chat room a bit more, but you've got to understand, because we're sort of talking to each other, it's hard to sort of talk and listen and read the chat as well, but we'll do our best to sort of keep our eyes on it.
Here's a bit of feedback for you, Uncle Bitters. Ethan Tremblay says he can hear someone yelling for help from your basement.
Oh, that's Biffin. He's come up here looking for free alcohol. I'll get Biffin to try. I'll get Biffin on next week. You're having this show next week?
Yeah, that's the plan. If Grapeviney wants to keep going, I'm happy to do it as a weekly thing, as a wrap-up of last week.
Biffin's been thrown out of the gap, so I'll actually I'll try and get him if he's in some way technologically enabled to call in. I think that'd be a great addition to your show. You've got a few of the Demonland regulars and perverts coming up on the screen too. I can see that.
Well, that's a good thing. We rely on having our Demonland perverts frequenting our.
I know I should be talking footy, but don't you think Demonland's a wonderful site? There's this enormous array of complete weirdos.
Well, that's what you get when you have people. People from...
I mean, that's just among the moderational stuff.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. In fact, a lot of the comments that are coming up regarding you, Uncle, probably can't be read out on air, or, they're suggestive in many ways. People asking whether you're wearing leather. Are you wearing pants? And
of course I'm wearing leather.
Palace D says, please, no vision.
That's reasonable. And let them all know that the tinny is still acting up.
Very good. Before you sign off, Bitters, who do you think is the most talented out of the young crop? Is it Clary, Jesse, Christian, Angus or Jaden?
Of that lot, I really think that Petraka will ultimately I think Petraka is a superstar. But that showing by Clary on the weekend, I mean, that was just beyond the pall, really. So you couldn't help but put him on the top, and hopefully he can continue that.
He looks the goods, doesn't he?
Oh, that was those getaway handballs he makes. I've not seen a player do that. Greg Williams used to do it, but in Greg Williams' day, the pressure wasn't as much as it is now. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, some of those handballs of his on Saturday. So I'd put him at the top at the moment without question.
Yep, fair call.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for calling in. We really appreciate it. And, listen again next week. We'll be back. And
I want some sort of a guarantee that I won't get banned for 6 months. Can you do that for me?
Well, if you behave yourself.
As long as you keep your pants on, everything should be fine.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you next week.
Thanks, mate.
Good talking to you, Bitters.
So, there you go. There is a bit of Demonland royalty.
He's definitely one of the leading lights on the board, isn't he? Despite the fact that he falls foul of the moderators quite regularly.
And look, just in defence of the moderators and the moderating staff, sometimes we have to be, tough on people, and we don't like to do it. It's not, these are exciting times, and we don't want anyone sort of missing out on, discussing the excitement that's ahead of us. Behave. And
I think some people wear it as a bit of a badge of honour, though, don't they?
So.
I think, though, Uncle Bitters and his crew, they're sort of, secretly proud of the fact that they've racked up 30-plus warning points and have been banned for months on end. Everyone keeps coming back though, don't they?
Yeah.
So
Look, I don't, who am I to ban someone? But sometimes we have to pull the pin, and if you toe the line, and you'll be sticking around to see some exciting stuff. And I was just having a look, just going back to the last game, just quickly. I can't remember a game where we had 5 players get over 30 possessions.
Yep.
It's
been a while,
sometimes we wouldn't even have any players get 30 possessions, let alone 5. So
the other good thing from the weekend was there was a huge spread of goal kickers again. I think we had 10 or 11 players kick goals,
1, 2, 3.
and that happened quite regularly last year.
12 goal kickers.
That's just great, isn't it? When you can have someone like Jesse and not be reliant on him to kick a winning score. And we've seen on a few occasions that against Geelong in 2015 and Hawthorn again last year that we can play really good footy when Jesse's not in the side.
Yep.
But the other thing that stood out on the weekend again, and we saw a bit of it last year, we can kick really accurate scores. And that's not just because of good luck or great goal kicking, but we're getting the ball into positions inside 50 where it's easy to convert. So we're having shots from 20 or 30 out straight in front rather than being, 40 metres out and stuck on a boundary line. And there's been a lot of over-the-top, Joe the Goose goals and the likes of Jeffy Garlett running onto those long bombs into, a Pagan's paddock style setup. Yeah. And that's how you end up kicking, I think we were, 10 goals for at one stage on the weekend. That's how you get those sorts of score lines. It's not luck. Yeah. It's getting the ball into a good position inside 50 where you've got a much greater chance of converting, don't you?
Yeah, well, we sort of... you have a look at Jeffy Garlett. He had a pretty quiet day on the possessions front and still kicked 3 goals and, therefore was a valuable contributor to the team. And I'll take that every week, him having 9 possessions and kicking 3 goals. I'll take that any day of the week. What you were talking about before with getting the goals, sort of getting them up close, if a couple of our first JLT games, we scored quite a few goals on the goal line. Just, handballs, short kicks, quick handball over the top in the goal square and someone kicking a goal. I think, they were quite happy to share it around. So, yeah.
Yeah, Clint Biscuit has just asked the question, what percentage of Garlett's goals at Melbourne's have been kicked from the goal line? And he's asked whether it's 70%.
I don't know, but I don't care.
It'd be really high, wouldn't it? Yeah. He's had a lot of those types of goals.
But
so
if he does that and kicks 3, I don't care. Clint Biscuit did say that Melbourne had the most possessions of any team in the round, and I've actually got a stat on that. It says here, Melbourne continued on from 2016, recording 454 disposals in round 1. The Demons recorded 400-plus disposals in 11 home and away games last season, which was second only to the Bulldogs,
right? Yeah,
who did that in 16 games. So Melbourne scored a massive... this is 9. We were also the highest, if you're a fantasy football follower, we were the highest scoring team, fantasy football all up. We were 19.
Gee, what a turnaround from a few years ago, isn't it? Because, in the Neil days, we hardly ever got our hands on the footy.
Yeah.
So to now be leading the competition and... I think we saw a bit in the JLT, but in a number of passages of play against St Kilda where we just dominated possession for minutes at a time, and they wouldn't kick. If all options were covered up forward, we were just quite happy to kick the ball around through the middle of the ground or across at the half back line and wait until something opened up.
Yeah. Exciting times ahead, I think. So, yes, good stuff to look forward to. And one last thing, we might talk about is, there's a thread on Demonland about when will Melbourne break these embarrassing records, and one and a half of those records fell on the weekend. The Hoodoo against St Kilda, finally we beat them, and the other one I sort of alluded to before that I don't count the GWS win at Etihad Stadium as breaking of the Hoodoo, but I feel that this was our a breaking of the Hoodoo. And so talking about Hoodoos that remain, which we can talk about now, there are a couple still to go that we need to knock off this year.
North Melbourne must be one of them, I'm guessing.
So our last win against North Melbourne was round 5, 2006. That's a 14-game losing streak. So we really need to put that to bed this year. Do you know when we play them?
I don't, although I've got the fixture. I've got the fixture at hand here. We've got them in round 9 at the MCG. It's a home game at 3:20 on the Sunday.
We don't often play them at the G.
It's been a while since we played them at the G.
So it'd be nice to get them out on the G.
But I know we don't have a great record against Carlton, but I still remember, so I don't consider it really a hoodoo, because we beat them in that round 5 game in Roosy's first year, 2014. We had a small victory where Cam Peterson kicked a freak goal in the final quarter from the boundary line, which just sort of snuck in and helped us get the win there. So I don't consider Carlton really to be a hoodoo, I don't think we're going to have any trouble knocking them off this week.
Another of our hoodoos this year that we need to knock off is a win in Perth. Our last win there was round 1, 2004, and that's a 12-game losing streak.
Yeah, well, they should have knocked that off last year because we
kicked ourselves out of
we
that
had
one.
them on toast last year, didn't we?
Yeah,
we just fluffed it.
We kicked ourselves out of that game. Didn't kick those goals. All right,
that's right.
And then the remaining hoodoos are all got to do with playing in the finals, which it's probably a bit too early to start talking about breaking those hoodoos, but just for the record, last final we played was in 2006 against a semi-final against Fremantle, and that's an 8-year drought. Our last win in a final was that same year, the elimination final against St Kilda, which was actually, incidentally, the last time we beat St Kilda prior to this week, and that's an 8-year drought as well. The minor premiership, 1964, that's 50 plus years. And also, well, our other hoodoo is we've never won a final outside of Victoria. We've only played 2 games, but for 2 losses.
One of them was the 94 preliminary against the Weagles.
Yes, so
where we got thumped.
Yes, were we meant to play them in Perth?
We meant to play them in. We should have played them in Melbourne.
Well, I believe they were the higher ranked team, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, no, that's right. But we're meant to play North, weren't we? And they made us.
I don't know. No. My memory is a bit hazy from, there's been a lot of years and a lot of abuse to the old noggin in those years that have passed. But it was my understanding, and someone in the chat room might fill us in, but I thought that they were, I think, the higher ranked team at the time. So if we were going by today's standard, it would be their home game. But in those days, there was no real rule about. And I think they just gave them a home game, I believe. I'm not sure. I think they pulled that one out of their asses, the AFL. I don't know, maybe someone can set us straight.
I've worked out that quite possibly our premiership hoodoo isn't as long as it seems to be. If the AFL moves to a twilight or a night grand final this year, which by all reports they're going to announce very soon, then... Well, we've won a night premiership more recently than 1964. Of course, we won in 87 and 89. So...
Do they really count?
Sorry?
Do they really count, though?
They do semantically, but probably only in that sense. So you can play the word games, but of course it's not since 1964 that we run the real thing.
Yeah. Well, you know what?
And Special Robert has just posted that he was there in '64. So what what a thrill that must have been, and what a heart stopper that must have been, because of course that was a very close game where Ray Gabelik of the Magpies put them in front very late. Went on a huge run, bouncing the ball down the ground and put Collingwood in front, and then of course it was Foggy Crompton who kicked the winning goal for Melbourne after drifting down from the back pocket and breaking Norm Smith's team rules to kick the winning goal.
Well, talking about back pockets or backmen, we didn't actually talk about this guy, but Neville Jetta. Prior to this, the start of the year, there were, I don't know, it seemed there was some question marks over whether he was going to appear in the plans of Goody's plans for the year. He didn't play any of the JLT. I think he was injured, but a lot of people were sort of questioning whether he was injured or whether they weren't playing him, and people were thinking, is he part of our thing? And I think he certainly put to rest any question of whether he is part of our best 22, and I would say he'd be almost one of the first people picked.
Look, he played a fantastic game on the weekend, didn't he? He just did so many of those solid defensive acts, took some really good marks, and was there to sort of save the day on a few occasions, and really played the type of game that we've sort of come to expect, I guess, from Jets. And he was probably a bit unlucky to be sort of caught up in that speculation pre-season of would he get a game or wouldn't he, but I think there were valid reasons why people sort of raised that issue, and I don't think it was done in a way that was negative of Nev, but more just a prediction that knowledge that the football department rates Joel Smith very, very highly, and that some maybe thought that Joel would go to replace Nev in the 22. So, I think that's where that sort of stemmed from. But if there were any doubts, as Bitters has just commented here, no more questions after his game against the Saints. If anyone had any doubt as to whether he was still, best 22 or playing good footy, he absolutely put them to rest on the weekend, because he played a great game. And for me, I would have almost given him votes in the Demonland voting. Probably would have snuck in for one. I thought his game was just great.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I wasn't going to go back to the game because we'd sort of moved on, but I just sort of saw a stat and I saw his name there, and I thought, yeah, he was someone I wanted to talk about, particularly in light of the pre-season talk about him. I thought his name needed to be brought up in relation to the game that he played. So
played a ripper, absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think we've discussed everything to do with the game on the weekend and the game coming up this weekend. Is there anything else that?
Well, we could talk all night, couldn't we?
But, definitely. We want to.
It's getting late, and some of our. Some of our listeners and followers probably want to hit the hay. They've got work tomorrow. We've got a big day on Demonland tomorrow.
Yeah, well, that's why we spend most of our day on Demonland. I think I should be paying some of these guys who produce content for me all day. So, thank you guys for listening. For the people who are going to be listening to this on the replay, on repeat, if you want to find us live, we'll we'll either be on a Tuesday or Wednesday. I'll speak with Grapevine and see what day sort of suits the two of us, but probably at a similar time, similar place. Demonland.com is where you can find us. The podcast will be at demonland.com/podcast. You can find us there. Grapevine, do you have anything you want to plug? Do you have any Twitter you want to plug or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
All that. Keep all that private.
Okay.
I do want to say thank you though to our two callers this week.
Yes.
Bobby Clark, who called in from up in Rockhampton, and of course Uncle Bitters calling in from his notorious den of iniquity in Romsey. But it was sincerely, it was good to have them on the show, and good to have people in the chat room, and hopefully we get some more calls next week too.
Yes, because that's what it's all about. We want to talk, we want to interact with you guys. We've got the chat room that we'll have live while we're on the show. I'm not going to keep the chat room live when the show's not on, but definitely when the show's on, we'll have the live chat going. And we've got those calls because we want to have the interaction with you guys. We're all barrack for the same club, and it's great. Often in our lives we don't have the people, to talk about it. Our wives, partners, whatever, don't want to hear us, ramble on about the D's all the time. So it's good to talk with like-minded people. So, give us a call next week. Hopefully we can discuss another win. So without further ado, let's play this.
Are you going to play the theme music to see us out?
Of course I am. Well, without further ado, this
Demons.
is a classic from 1989 coming right at you.